Peace, peace, family. We are back. Shout out to everybody who's a Patreon member. The brother Rod Hayes is back in the building. The brother supports me by participating on my Patreon platform once a month. So I want to thank the brother, and I know y'all enjoy his shows. I know all y'all enjoyed the panel. Rod Hayes, I'm gonna tell you, man, the people was like, you went off on the panel. They was like, yo, I got so many calls, like, yo, that dude, people that never heard of you before, also like, yo, who is that dude? Like, yo, Rich, that dude is crazy. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm like, dude ain't no joke. I'm like, dude ain't no joke. And one of the things you said in the panel that was interesting in the very beginning, before you totally went off, was that when I asked you about the your encounter with extraterrestrials, you said your form of communication is telepathy. And everybody's curious, how does this brother get this information? The way you deliver it is different from how we hear other people deliver information. It's unique. So the people like, what is this brother doing? This brother knows some type of magic or something for you to be channeling like that. So I said, let me do the next show on Patreon. Telepathy is it's a huge topic, but we're gonna do an introduction tonight. We're gonna be on here for about an hour. So I want to thank you once again. And my brother, so talk to me about telepathy, what exactly it is, and give the people, some introduction into what exactly is you do when you do telepathy and how you're able to do it.
So, contrary to popular opinion, it's not mind to mind thought transference. That's
Mm,
the general understanding of how telepathy works, but it's wrong.
mm.
It's a heart to heart link.
Ooh,
It's governed by your heart chakra,
ooh.
right? So if you don't know how to get into the love energy, you will never be telepathic.
Wow. Wow.
All right, but once you feel that energy, you know what it is. It's unmistakably different than anything you've been consumed by before, and it
Mm-hmm.
got phases. But there's training wheels for people who have a affection for each other, right?
Mm,
There's a couple of training wheels. One is mastermind group.
mm,
That's when you get a room full of people together. Y'all create a secondary intelligence separate from everybody there, but composed of the collective energy.
mm,
It's a mastermind group.
mm,
So this is the fastest way you're gonna learn it, and it's still gonna take a while.
mm.
But the exercise is this simple, right? Like I had you got a pencil and paper by you, brother Rich.
No, I don't. I don't. I got my iPhone. I can write it on my iPhone. If
Yep, you can type it on your
all
iPhone.
right.
All right. And um you want me to know what you typing. So just to expedite it, because if otherwise I have to do knocks.
Okay.
So pick a color,
Uh-huh.
right? So now I have no idea what color you pick,
Mm-hmm.
right? But in your mind, you have to see the color that you pick.
Okay. With my eyes open or my eyes
It
closed?
don't matter. It's
Okay.
as long as you see it in your mind, the color.
I see it clear as day.
All right. And then now with the voice that's in your head, say the color as loud as you can. I keep coming in two colors. His primary color is blue.
You a bad motherfucker. Hold on. Look, I wrote Rod at the top because that is it's a note from Rod Hayes. What I wrote, Rod? What I wrote under your name?
Hey, it's fair. Ask the people what you wrote.
Bro, come on, get the fuck out of here. Come on, man. Get the fuck out of here.
Now let me
Get,
tell you what you just did.
yeah.
When you seen the color, you painted it in the ethers.
Mhm.
When you yelled the name of the color, you sent a
Wait,
vibration
Rod,
out
that
in the
static
ether.
is coming. Come back out and back in.
All right.
All right. That was amazing. That's that was amazing, man. I need to know more about this. Can't wait for the brother to come back. That was amazing, y'all. Brother, first guess, I thought it was gonna take him like 3 tries or something like that. But wow. Brother got it on the first try. Yeah.
Okay, so now the what you was doing, so you paint the picture of every color got a weight, a density,
Mm-hmm.
right? Every letter in the color contributes to the weight and density of describing the color. Because every letter got a frequency and a vibration of its own, right? An etheric weight. Because it was all letters was created through alchemy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when the alchemist created the letter, he charged the letter with an energy. Now, the collection of letters that form the word blue um, then becomes attached to the frequency that blue projects into the ethers. All I have to do is don't have an opinion on what you put out there and it'll come in. If I wanted it to be a color, it would have been the wrong one, right? So let's say somebody want to predict what you gonna write. They already got their mind made up for you wrote. They're gonna pick the wrong color because they preloading themselves to pick the wrong color is the only reason. We all linked into the universal mind. The information goes up and comes back down on the circuit. So just like you was attached in your navel by umbilical cord to your mother in her uterus, we eternally, mentally connected to the universal mind. That's what makes us God forms in human bodies. Because the manifestation of a human is the composite of all of the greatest characteristics of everything else on earth. Right? So if we are all of that which is of the earth, all that's in us. So all we got to do is know what frequency a oak tree is on that's different than a pine tree. Right? Because they would be shaped the same if they was on the same frequency. Right? So it's like if you get a satellite radio and then you tune in the trees, right? So now you got all these tree channels, and then you go through them. This is spruce tree, this is evergreen, this is cedar, this is walnut. Oh, here it is right here. This is oak, right? Well, once you get the practice down from communicating with the psyche like that, it then becomes second nature. It takes on a life of its own, and you automatically do it or don't do it. Everybody's sending out telepathic communications all day, every day, knowingly or unknowingly. And a lot of us receiving it, and we not realizing that that's not our own personal thought. That didn't come from me. Who the hell is that? That's the dude 3 houses down getting ready to whoop his wife, right? And his energy is going to rub you the wrong way. So you become agitated, right? Then you might have all these crazy ideas running through your head while you agitated. You are telepathically listening to him, and you don't even know it. Now, if you act on it, he down there beating his wife, you over here kicking your dog. You acting out what he's acting out, right? And the more, the stronger the affection link, the clearer the communication is when it comes in. It's crystal clear who you talking to when the telepathic link is established by somebody who you are strongly, um, affectionately bound to. So, to make sure I don't get too far ahead, do you have any questions about the parts that we went over so far?
No. Well, one question. When you talked about the neighbor next door,
Mm.
and you picking up on his thoughts, uh, my question would be when you're out, like let's say it's 3 in the morning. A lot of times I like to go for a walk late at night, 3 in the morning. I feel as though I'm able to receive downloads more because
You are.
there's not people around, it's not congested. If
Yeah.
there's a such thing, a congested
That's the witching hour.
Yeah.
3 a.m. to like 5 or 6 a.m., depending on where you at. They
Mm-hmm.
call it the witching hour.
Mm-hmm.
The root word for witch mean wise,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's the hour of wisdom. That means the only people doing work at that hour are normally what we call them night walkers,
Mm-hmm.
right? People that like to hang the streets at night. You know, you just getting out the club. You know what I'm saying? You're going home to settle down now. But
Mm-hmm.
for the overwhelming majority of the people are in a state of rest.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that they're not projecting anything into the universal mind. And it's easier to talk to somebody one on one than it is to talk to a whole group of people and they all giving you feedback at the same time. So that's why that 3 o'clock in the morning is a special hour for psychic communication from the universe. Like when you want to talk to God, that's the best time to do it because you're going straight to universal mind, which is the source, which is Big Mama, right? So once you become aware of it, you control it better. And this is what they call um, unconscious learning. You might start off with just the thought about something, and then the more you practice it, you might not even know you practicing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like how to turn a wrench. You don't know how to turn a wrench. You ain't never had one before,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you might have had a toy that mimicked the turning of the wrench.
Mm-hmm.
So you already preloaded that when you see the wrench, oh, I understand how that works.
Right. Right.
Right. So you learning lessons at an early age,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and telepathy is also how your mama always know what you're doing, even when she shouldn't know.
Mm. That's facts.
Right. The part of the mother instinct allows her to see what you doing through your eyes as you do
Mm.
it. And she can't tell you in this modern society we exiting from because that was grounds to get your mama killed,
Mm.
right? So she tells somebody she's seen her son at the liquor store and he wasn't the one that robbed it. She know what the fuck she talking about, even though she was on the other side of the country.
Mm.
Because her heart link to the child is also a telepathic connection,
Mm.
right? So that's what they call true love. The one that you truly love, y'all telepathically connected.
Mm.
When the man is telepathically connected to the woman, by default, it begins to fill up his mitochondrial energy base.
Mm.
And so you think you just laying next to a chick, she digging you, you digging her. You know what I'm saying? And you finding yourself, do I love this chick or what? I don't know what's going on here. Something ain't right, right? Because it's certain ways that y'all behave to balance each other out by nature. Nature does this. You don't do it. But
Mm.
as y'all become connected, y'all become telepathically linked. And this is why they always tell you to make sure that you over your ex before you enter another relationship.
Mm.
Because if you go in another relationship and you still attached to your ex, you just sabotaged your next relationship.
Why? Why is that?
Well, if your ex is having problems in this relationship, which if he still telepathically connected to her, he's definitely gonna be having problems,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So they gonna be exchanging their problems with each other,
Mm.
and they come out from the psychic connection,
Mm.
right? So that's why they used to frown up on divorce, and that's why it was harder to get married than it was to get a divorce. But it was so rare to ask for a divorce because the hard part was getting married.
Mm.
It's easier to stay with her than to try to get married again,
Mm.
right? So the connections, the women made the connections of they did the matchmaking. We
Mm.
don't, men didn't do the matchmaking.
Mm.
And if your mother is really in tune with you, She know what you like automatically, because when you realize what you like yourself, if it's truly what you like, that's what she's gonna assimilate,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I always tell people, don't look for a person, look for the feeling that you want to get from the person,
Facts.
right? This is the same thing that the scientists are saying with epigenetics. The honeymoon effect by Bruce Lipton talks about it, right? So you know what, when you try to manifest, you don't focus on the item,
Mm-hmm.
because there's no love energy in it, and it makes it more difficult to acquire it.
Mm-hmm.
Though it's not impossible, because you have some type of attraction to it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know how you would feel when you got it, when you see it in your mind, you attach it to the feeling, then the two work together to make it happen.
Right. Right.
Right. So if you want to bring something from the spirit world into the physical world, you write it on paper.
Mm-hmm.
You just took it from the 5D, brought it to the 2D. Where do it got to meet at? Somewhere in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So between 2D and 5D, you got 3 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
So when you write it on paper, you cross dimensions. When you cross dimensions, you make the link between the two, and then there's a pathway that got to come, and they will converge on the densest one, because that's where the accumulation of energy takes place, a manifestation.
So telepathy, this heart-to-heart communication that you refer to. Two questions, real quick. I want to ask. The neighbor that you talk to, that let's say the neighbor three houses down is abusing his wife, and I pick up on his thoughts. I don't have a heart-to-heart link with that neighbor, so why would I be telepathically linked with this neighbor and his
I was just using that as an example,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
right? It could be your brother in Chicago while you in New York,
mm-hmm,
right? If you don't recognize, that's why they say, man, know thyself.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Those random thoughts that come in, they're not always a person you affectionately attached to, but you attached on the same frequency to
Mm.
somebody.
The same feeling frequency, this feeling.
Right,
Okay, okay.
right. So then it'll bleed over. Like, so it's like writing on a paper with a marker, and then the residuals on the next page can show you what was written.
Woo-hoo, good example.
Right. So it's just the bleed over from them
Wow,
being on a similar frequency.
wow.
It just so happened that my vibration and the people I was around was some horrible people to be around going through this system.
Mm,
So I was always fighting they psychic demons for them, and I didn't even know it.
damn.
I thought I was fighting my own.
Mm,
But it came to a point when I was like, hold up, this ain't fucking me. Nigga, who the hell is this? Right? Because it's somebody, pain, suffrage, the misery also can link you telepathically too.
mm.
Because it's misery is the reverse of the love energy.
Right,
It's the
right.
it's the exact reverse frequency, right? So you can still be linked through misery. And when you suffer in the same misery as other people, if you don't know your thoughts, you don't know who thoughts you assimilate. That's why psychic self-defense is imperative to learn as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us didn't know about that, no psychic self-defense, when we was coming up. And our elders wasn't teaching that.
That might have to be the next show, psychic self-defense. That might have to be the next one, man. That's powerful.
Psychic self, that's a whole show by itself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. But
definitely.
it's also called psychic hygiene when you're dealing with keeping other people's energy from invading yours. With their energy come thought forms,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just like the blue, right? Another person on that's watching us,
Mm-hmm.
they was amplifying it because they were saying, "I bet it's blue."
Mm-hmm.
right? So they said they want to see the result, right? And the universe is saying if you want to see the results, you got to already know what it's going to be. It's going to be blue.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know why they're saying, I bet it's going to be blue. They
Mm-hmm.
just know that they know without knowing that they know,
Mm.
right? But they saying it to themselves. So all it's doing is making the connection between me and you amplify.
You
They
fine.
putting, they taking the tweeters off, putting woofers on that motherfucker.
Powerful. So this telepathy, I was just looking on the internet. So if you look on the internet, Merriam-Webster dictionary, let's just see what they say. Communication from one mind to another by extrasensory means. Uh
That's a oxymoron, by the way.
why is that?
Extrasensory is an oxymoron.
Yeah, I've heard Dr. Valentine say that before. What now? Can you explain why is it a oxymoron?
Nature gave you more than five senses. Just because it's a sense that we don't use regular,
Hmm.
it don't mean that it ain't there.
Exactly.
All of our senses, we remember we are data driven organisms,
Hmm.
whether it's a mouse or a human,
Hmm.
right? And to be driven by data, that means that you need multiple sensors.
Hmm. Hmm.
We have no sensors that's extra. They all supposed to be there.
Hmm. Hmm.
Extra means something that's an added bonus that you wasn't supposed to get.
Hmm.
That ain't extra. It's
Hmm.
just learning how to use it,
Hmm.
right? So before you learned how to ride a bike, it wasn't nothing extra to the talent of riding a bike wasn't an extra sense, was it?
No.
Because it's not that you can't ride a bike, it's that you don't know how it feels,
Hmm.
right? So none of the senses are extra. We got all the senses we supposed to have and some that we don't even know,
Mm.
right? Extra, you don't need extra shit,
Exactly.
you know. So that ain't extra. It's part of who we are.
So telepathy, it can involve somebody who's not in on this realm anymore. Like let's say your grandmother passed
The link
away.
never dies.
Mm-hmm.
The link never dies,
Mm-hmm.
right? Our mothers give us clues that they can telepathically communicate with us. Like
Mm-hmm.
my mama clue to us was check out your man. I'm gonna be with you all the time. So that means listen to what you thinking, you're gonna hear me talking. That's what when she told us that other people's mother might give them a different way of understanding the telepathic link. Because they might tell them something to the effect of, if you listen hard enough, you will hear me talking. Right? So those are all clues that the mothers be giving the children that they telepathically connected.
I notice when you talk, Rod, and a lot of people do this, and I do this also. Sometimes if you're like looking for a word, your eyes will look up. You'll be like, and a lot of people, I do that a lot too. A lot. I'll be like, so the yesterday, and I look up if I'm trying to think of something. What is that? Why is
In,
that? What is that about?
in certain directions you look, you have to go into your memory bank,
Mm-hmm.
right? If it doesn't come up in the memory bank, then I got to go into the creative bank and ask the creative mind to find the answer that the analytical mind couldn't,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the normally when you ask the creative mind to find something, people say that you fabricating the information
Mm.
or you lying,
Right.
right? I seen your eyes, you lying,
Mm.
right? Because they watching you grab it from the right brain instead of the left,
Powerful.
right?
Mm.
But when you learn how to use both hemispheres of the brain, that's not a good tell of truth or falsehood, right? But
Mm.
if you know how to use both sides of the brain, the person's gonna tell you they finna lie to you before they lie. Then they tell you to lie. Then they tell you that they just lied to you after the lie. You just have to be perceptive enough to catch it.
Indeed. So how often do you would you say? I mean, is this something you intentionally do every day? Practice telepathy. Do you have people that you specifically practice it with, and they know you're practicing it with each other? Like, how does this work with
I
you?
in my early days when I was learning it,
Mm,
I had a couple people that I trained with,
mm,
but for the most part now, most of them aren't aware that they be telling me what to do. They
mm,
give me instructions,
mm,
right? But if they are one of the organic queens, so to speak, right? She knows she talking to me, and I know who she is that's talking. The women got a hive mind.
mm.
Men ain't you only certain men can get in. You have to be tried, tested, and true in order to get in. But once you
What to get,
in, you in.
what to get into the hive mind?
Yeah. A lot of women can't even get into it because they won't straighten up.
What explain what is the hive mind? What is that?
So when you get to a certain level, the humans are pack animals, and only the alphas can say if you can get into the hive mind. A woman need three sisters to bless her into the hive mind. Some of them done at birth. Some of them is given life tests because of who they was in their last life, right? Because of who you was in your last life, we can't bless you at birth into the hive mind. But I tell you what we can do. We can give you the opportunity to clean up your karmic debt. In other words, learn from the mistakes that you built up in your last life that you didn't give a fuck about nobody in.
Mm,
And in them same places in this life, learn to care,
mm-hmm,
right? Most people' biggest problem now is the art and science of forgiveness
mm-hmm,
because they don't know how to attach the gratitude for the lesson in order not to suffer from the trauma or the pain. You got to replace one or the, you can't have both. You got to have one or the other.
mm-hmm,
So when you're doing shadow work and you're trying to clear your channels, you have to forgive the people that was transgressive against you, but you also got to seek to be forgiven for the people you was transgressive toward.
mm-hmm,
That's what the whole Lord's Prayer is about. It's really a lesson for children. It's not even for adults,
mm-hmm,
right? So it's teaching the art and science of forgiveness because, like, as good at the work as I'm trying to do now, I've been equally as horrible in my past,
mm-hmm,
right? So if I wasn't able to be this absolute devil, I couldn't reach the level of the absolute God,
mm-hmm,
right? And if you ain't able to reach the level of the absolute God, you can't fall to the level of the absolute devil because they polar opposites,
mm-hmm,
right? So when you learn to take lessons from your mistakes in life instead of making them mistakes, right? You turn them into learning opportunities and make you a better person.
mm-hmm.
And when you do that, you clearing out your psychic channels. And that
Yeah.
you have to clear your psychic channels out if you ever intend on being successfully telepathic.
Mm-hmm. Powerful. You know, when I was younger, probably when I was about 23, and sometimes this is when I knew about telepathy, but I didn't, really investigate it like that. And I was living with my girl, and I remember sleeping with her in the bedroom, and me just having certain thoughts. And I'm like, the fuck, why am I having these crazy ass thoughts? Then I remember like a year or two later, my girl telling me she was dealing with anxiety and shit like that. And then I was like, because in my mind, when I picked up on when I had the thoughts laying in the bed sometimes, I'm like, because I remember Bobby Hemmett saying you could pick up on the person's next to you energy. And then when she said that, I was like, yeah, I knew that was the case. I knew just laying with her, I would pick up on some of her thoughts, her having anxiety at that time. I would pick up on that shit. So that shit talk to me about you know, people you sleep with, and y'all having this energetic connection, and how strong that may be or whatever.
All right, when you having just random sex, you're not engaged in your chakras.
Hmm. Hmm.
When you having sex with somebody you in a relationship with, you engage in your chakras from your heart center to your root chakra, right? Now, the only way to reach your crown chakra is you have to have what you call a psychic breakthrough at the heart chakra,
Hmm.
right? When I had mine, I seen my heart light up like through my skeleton. I got up to use the bathroom in the middle of the night and I could look down and see clean through my skeleton,
Yeah. Wow.
right? And I seen my heart glowing and it was bright red, big as hell.
Damn.
And I said to myself, what the fuck is this shit? Right? So I told my mama about the dream and she normally give me feedback. And when I told her about the dream, all she said was, oh, really? That was it.
Hmm.
So I couldn't figure that out because she didn't give me any feedback.
Hmm.
She called me in a room about probably a week later, right? And she said, she thinking that I forgot I told her about the dream. So she want to make it far removed from the dream to tell me to pay attention to my dreams,
Hmm.
right? And then about maybe a month later, my big mama came to me in the dream and they had a big old fried chicken festival for me.
Hmm.
And it had all of my big mamas because I got more than one, right? Because you always, big mamas are godmothers,
Hmm.
right? So you pick them up in your life. The more of them approve you as being a good person, the higher your rank is in the society.
Hmm.
So let's say you got a friend, you ain't never seen this grandmama, but he always telling her about you.
Hmm.
She gonna make a special trip sooner or later to meet you. She because all she's getting is good reports. She has to see you, and if she agree with the report she's given, she gives you the pass, right? But this also go for Big Papas too. When Big Papa hear about it, the guy that's in the street and he holding it down like a man at an early age, whether it's this boy right here fight anybody, knock him out. He get a certain amount of older men that give him the okay,
Hmm.
right? Oh, he's ready,
Hmm.
right? And these things is getting you prepared using the laws of nature. You are evolving into yourself. You are waking up into who you are. They
Hmm.
call it coming into your own,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So one child out of every family, the least likely um, to succeed is always watched the hardest. And if he's still being seen as the least likely to succeed by both the mother line and the father line, he become a two-feathered chief at that point.
Hmm.
Right? Everybody bet against you but your mama and your daddy. You got two feathers out the gate.
Hmm.
Now you some at some point you have to go spend time with your mother's family and you have to go spend time with your father's family. Circumstances of life your parents are going to seize upon to put you into certain sides of the family for scrutiny.
Hmm.
Examine my boy, see if he got good manners and if he's a good person and if he listens well to what you say,
Hmm.
right? And when they get the report back, you don't never know it. They don't say nothing to you,
Hmm.
but you get the pass from the ITs. When you
Hmm.
get the pass from the ITs on both sides, they flip you over to the uncles on both sides.
Hmm.
Now you got the okay from the uncles and the aunties on both sides, right?
Hmm.
Now you got to get the okay from the cousins on both sides. right? And then it's gonna narrow all the way down till you gotta come back home and still continue to remain who you are, no matter what you've been through.
Right.
And that's the final hurrah to you being raised as the chief on the land. All of the other chiefs, by the way, while you being tested by the mother side and the father side, is sending somebody to test you,
Mm-hmm.
right? The stick up man might come at 2 a.m. in the morning. How did you handle the situation? One of the chiefs might send him just to see how you handle the situation,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you make a mistake, what do? How do you make up for your mistakes? The chiefs be watching that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So once they all know, everybody know who all it is. Most of it is taking place in the realm of psychic capability, right? Most of this is psychically done. It's not done. They don't normally talk about it out in the open because we get murdered for it. We had to go back to our old ways of psychically discussing it.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can, start putting our structure back together when we go back to the oral traditions.
Mm-hmm. What is something if somebody doesn't have a mastermind group? What's some other practices they could do to continue to develop and strengthen their telepathic abilities?
Learn to use what they call oracle, like tarot cards, runes, I Ching. The more you learn those are training your psychic wheels anyway.
Mm-hmm.
When you training your psychic wheels, your psychic connection, you linking your heart and your mind together. So now you're working on everything from your heart chakra to your crown chakra by
Mm-hmm.
developing your psychic abilities,
Mm-hmm.
right? So all of that stuff becomes useful. The coldest thing is write a sigil. Learn how to make your own sigils. Or use an ancient sigil for the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But a sigil is like, you open your phone and you got apps on your phone,
Mm-hmm.
right? You writing your own app.
Yeah, I remember you said that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So once you code your own app, right, all you got to do when is continuously think about it until you forget it. Then
Mm-hmm.
your subconscious mind starts to figure out how to use it.
Mm-hmm. Do you think like as far as telepathy, um like let's say you want to get hired for a job and you're getting ready to be interviewed by somebody, is that something people could do, like before they get there they telepathically communicate with the person that's interviewing them, telling them that they're a great candidate and whatever? Does that, what do you think about that?
Okay, so really what they doing is called infusing the aura,
Mm.
right? So you
So that's
think
that's
about
not telepathy. That's not
no.
telepathy. Okay, okay.
Well, it's a close relative though, because
Mm-hmm.
watch how it works.
Mm-hmm.
You sitting here and you painting in your aura, like for instance, you typed the color on your iPhone. I wasn't looking at it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I gave you back the color. When you paint your aura like that, going to a job interview, the person behind the desk could be having a bad day. The universe tell you got to get some kind of positive response as soon as possible when you go through the door. They having a bad day. It don't come across like that. It come across in the energy wave. So when you walk in, you are in a different energy. So you walk in and you speak in a manner that makes them grin or look up at you, or you know what I'm saying, the way you shake their hand, the energy exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Now you are your aura is then painting the picture for them to see it. But it's all coming through you.
Mm-hmm.
It's the feedback is coming out of you because you already painted the image in your mind of what you wanted to do in the job interview.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when they say when you go into a job interview, don't take no for an answer before you go.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because when no is an option, it ties you to the fear of being rejected. And we already told you the fear is the reverse of the love energy,
Love. Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you make them two connect, you can't make it connect on your lowest frequency, right? So when you paint your aura, the energy that you're gonna project is going to be influential on their energy.
Mm-hmm.
Now that can be classified as a telepathic communication because it's happening without the aid of words,
Mm-hmm.
right? But we also sending off signals as body language, right? We sending signals off in facial expressions. Like you asked me about my eyes, and I was retrieving information,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when you're going through this, the other person don't necessarily see or know what they seeing. They subconscious know because then they subconscious begin to respond to the stimuli by drawing the data out that they need to give them an assessment of what they face with,
Mm-hmm.
right? So one person is always an asshole, but he always get a job. He ain't never an asshole in the job interview. He know how to play the persons that does interview because he done been on so many interviews,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now he know how to play the interview scenario like playing a board game.
Mm-hmm.
He gonna always get the job because he know the rules to the game and you don't,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's why you always make your enemies give you a rule book and hold them to the rules in the rule book, right? That's your art of war, right? So when they came over here, they gave us a Bible. That's the rule book
Mm-hmm.
and the contract, but it's also a riddle. So now you gotta uh, translate the contract, unravel the riddle in order to use the rule book.
Mm-hmm.
And most people don't know how,
Right. Right.
right?
Indeed.
So only a few people gonna get it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Many are called, but few are chosen. That's what it means. A
Do
whole lot of
Yeah, brother. Yeah.
yeah, a whole lot of people got the access, but very few are going to be determined to use it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what.
Do you think our telepathic abilities are strengthening more now that we are entering the age of Aquarius? And the reason why I ask that is because a lot of people notice that if somebody calls them on the phone right before they call them, they be like, "Damn, I was just thinking about you, man." And I hear more the last 6 years, 7 years. I've heard so many people say that it's like a regular thing. Before somebody call you, you start to think about that motherfucker out of nowhere. Then they call. So is this a sign that it's strengthening, or do you think it's
It's definitely strengthening because the energy of the mitochondrial energy of the highest females are turning up, and it's going to drag the rest of our mitochondria up. As your mitochondria put more energy into your DNA, right? It wakes you up on a different level,
Mhm.
right? So you either you're gonna wake up. Some of them got to be drugged behind, but they still gonna wake up,
Mhm.
right?
Indeed.
If they got the tools to wake up. Some of them ain't supposed to wake up.
Mm. So some people just meant to be dead. You saying?
Yep,
Mm. Why is that? What? Because that's how the movie is. That's what makes
that's
them.
the script,
That's the script.
right?
Mm.
Remember they separating wheat from chaff.
Right. Right.
The ones who look like they us, but they ain't us. They AI,
Mm.
right? And the only reason why they AI and we not is because we charge with the light body. They charge with something called the dark body, which is a shadow body.
Mm.
So they can never truly be sentient, but they can exhibit a lot of the traits.
Mm. What percentage of the population would you say that is? That's charged by the dark body.
Oh man, I haven't seen enough people to be able to give you an accurate analysis.
I was wondering if that was the people who charged by the light body, was if that was the 144,000, that number we keep hearing.
It's way more than that.
Way more than that.
Yeah, that's just a code number anyway, but it's
Mm.
way more than 144,000.
Indeed. What's that about? What's that a code for? Because I've heard so much about that number. What's that a code for?
It was a code to tell the elites that the angel was sent. One is the one that was sent. 44 is an angel,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And thousand mean you sent, thou seeing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's a homonym anagram numerology scramble.
Homonym, anagram, numerology scramble. Wow.
That's why it's so hard to figure out these problems, because they did a lot of that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like even when they translate the Bible, they don't even they give names to titles. They'll tell you that it's a person, but it's actually a function of something that's taking place in nature. Like Daniel means judgment of God,
Mm-hmm.
but they tell you Daniel was a person,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then this person is reading God's judgment to the king Nebuchadnezzar,
Mm-hmm.
right? But that's not what's happening in the book. That's what they want you to think is happening in the book. So they can scramble it up, and this is what make it become a riddle.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long riddle,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's broken pieces in different places. Half of names, right? Like for instance, Mary is supposed to be translated always as rebellious woman.
Mm-hmm.
They never translated as rebellious woman.
Mm-hmm.
And even where you find places where it's supposed to be clearly a rebellious woman, it'll say a Mary,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they don't want you to know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the biggest and darkest kept secret in the whole Bible, is that the absence of the divine feminine, by turning into a masculine male figure and calling it a ghost.
Hmm.
Right? That's just a symbol for undermining because there's never been a family that a mother wasn't part of.
Right.
Right? Even if she died and the father raised the children from little to a lot, still mama was there because it got babies.
Mm-hmm.
Can't have babies, don't have mama.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Right? So that's all part of that destroy the defined feminine matrix.
Mm-hmm. Two more questions before we get out of here. Once again, I want to thank you for joining us on episode 2, introduction to telepathy. It's been a great, inspiring show. I'm gonna look forward to practicing doing some. I'm gonna do that exercise you did with me with the blue. I'm gonna do it with my girl, and just we can work on this telepathic communication with
Mm-hmm.
each other. Or any books you recommend us to read to improve our telepathy?
Um, this one is not gonna seem like it got anything to do with it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a Napoleon Hill Outwitting the Devil.
I wouldn't.
Now, the reason why I would give you that to relate to telepathy, because you got to understand the level of thought with overcoming the negativity in your life that's required. And the negative thought is represented as the devil, right? So when he writing Outwitting the Devil, he's really, the higher self has to outsmart the lower self ego. And the smarter you is, the smarter your ego is,
Mm.
right? Because you're really playing a chess game against yourself at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So now you're just trying to get the checkmate. The only
Mm.
way you can get the checkmate is if the higher self conquers the lower self. If the lower self conquer the higher self, it brings the whole machine to ruin.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't never allow yourself to be victim to your lower nature, your animalistic instincts.
Mm-hmm.
which is all that is your totem animals is in control without your knowledge.
The totem animal being what now?
It's,
Your
it's, it's the animal that represents your clan, but it's a frequency.
mm,
All of the animals in the world, including all the insects, got their own frequency.
mm,
And part of you tuning in to your totem animal is assimilating that frequency in a harmonious manner. And that's not the easiest thing in the world, though it sounds simple, right? But your lower nature, the first thing you have to do is turn all of the negativity off so that you can in full control of self,
mm,
right? And then you become knowledgeable of the animal totem that you're trying to um connect with. The
mm,
more information that you know about it, the more you tune in and fine tune the frequency, right? So I got a lot of them because I've been studying animals longer than I've been studying anything else.
mm, mm. So, what your totem animal? If a person doesn't know what it is, like what you will see it on a regular, how would you know what your totem
It's different
animal?
ways your totem animal, depending on what your animal is, how it communicates. They all come to you in dreams when you call them. So if you like ask your higher self, what's my totem animal? Within 3 or 4 days, you will have a dream and you'll see a specific animal that'll stand out in your dream.
Mm, mm,
But if you got a whole lot of them, you might be taken to the zoo in a dream.
mm,
And then you get to go to different animals and see the different animals in different habitats. This is how we will assimilate that. Hey, you got a whole lot of totems. The only place we know where all of these totems can be congregated is at the zoo,
right.
right? Because you don't see parrots in the same environment that you see polar bears, right? And we
Mm,
don't see no gorillas in Alaska,
mm,
right? And the kind of parrots that we see where you find gorillas don't look nothing like the parrots that you find in, say, South America,
indeed.
right? So those would be different totems. And then the more you learn about them, the more you tune in. But it also gives you a different understanding of human nature too.
Indeed. One last question before we get out of here, brother. And I know this is one that people are definitely interested in. Um, that you had that you talked about during the panel discussion, the Black Extraterrestrial panel discussion. I'm interested in knowing more information, and I mean, it might be personal, but if you could just tell us what you can about how does this communication work between you, this telepathic communication you work between you and I forgot the name of the deity you said, the entity you was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But how did you find out that you had this heart to heart communication with this entity, and how exactly does it work? If you could,
Well, my case is real simple. She was my mother first here. When
what
she,
was the name? What was the name of the
I called her Ainana.
Ainana? Yeah,
Right, Ainana is actually not a name; it's a title.
it's a title. Okay.
Right, but they call her the beloved Ainana.
Mm,
But it's also depending on the language, she's also Isis.
mm,
Right, but this was my mother in the physical form that raised me. When
mm.
she left is when she gave me her Anunnaki GPS, so to speak.
Mm, mm,
Right. So, and then when I started downloading information, and then she telling me to do stuff, and I'm like, why the fuck she want me to do this? But I do it, and it'll be a critical piece of information revealing why she had me do it. So
mm,
it's a lot of the books that I've ordered, um, a lot of uh, habits I picked up.
mhm,
Like sometimes I get an overwhelming urge to go for a walk. I know when I get for a walk, if it's a scavenger hunt, right? Because they give me messages through scavenger hunts a lot. So one day I got the urge to go to my meditation spot down at the dock. I walked behind the elementary school and there was $1 on the ground, a single $1 bill. Now the name of the elementary school is Emerson.
Mm,
So we talking Ralph Waldo Emerson, a author, a writer,
mm,
right? But this is elementary basics, early learning. Okay. Then I got $1. $1 is 100% on the test, right? So we talking elementary school. 100% on the test is a smiley face,
mm.
right? The smiley face mean if you can put all this together and tell us what it means, then you win a star,
Mhm.
right? So now I'm gonna get a star for the $1, a star for if I know what the elementary mean, a star for Waldo Emerson figuring out that he write books, right? And the $1 that was found behind the school, right? And now my 5th star is gonna come when I tell you, make it plain enough for a baby to understand, says Farrakhan. Now, how do I know I won? I go up the street and I get a dime. What's a dime? 10 toes down. That means you standing on the upright. In order to be standing on the upright, you got to be in the center of pi. That's 3.14, right? Which equals 8. 8 is a B, right? As in a spelling bee, right? But the bee is the queen of the hive. So the queen of the hive, being my mama, give me the stamp that, yep, you got it right.
Wow, what a process, brother. Wow. What a process, my brother. Wow, shit. Man, well, I mean, that just about concludes today's episode. Is there anything else you want to leave with the people before we get out of here, my brother? I know they're gonna love this, man, but anything else you
It's
want to leave?
it's another book. How to activate telecult powers.
Wait. How to activate what?
Telecult powers. It's TELE occult.
Oh, tell her a cult.
Mm-hmm. Now
Wow.
that's a book. That's an instruction manual on different types of extrasensory perception. Right. It's another book. It's a paperback called "How to Activate ESP" or something similar to that. But it's a paperback. It's real cheap, like $10, $9 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But those are good training manuals, and the control remote viewing manual. When you look the author up, if he was ex-military and that was what he did in the army, that's the right one.
Just writing this down. My fault. God,
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking. I'm gonna get these tonight on Amazon. Um, yeah, man, powerful show, my brother. Any contact information you want to leave with the people, just in case they want to get in touch with you?
Well, you can catch me on Rod Hayes on Facebook. I'm always on Facebook and Instagram, mostly because it makes it easy for people to find out where I'm at. My IG page is rodhayes.75. I got a secondary that's pinned to the top of the Rod Hayes page, Morpheus Mysticus Megas. Y'all can find me there like most of the time. I be coming in over there.
Indeed. With that being said, family, we're getting out of here. Rod, thanks for coming back, family. Thanks for tuning in and joining and participating in this Patreon experience, family. We'll see you next time. Peace.